You are in a class called the Broker Pre-License course. And if you look at the bottom half of this page, you see the terminology. Do you see broker post-license education? Does everybody see that? Okay, you're in pre. So I'm going to talk to you about some other courses that you'll be learning about, that when you get a license, you'll be taking other courses too. But so this is the beginning. This is the entry-level pre-license course. The post-licensing course, let me just give you a little hint on that right now. It's three 30-hour courses. So let's hold that thought for a moment, and I'll explain it to you in just a little bit what those courses involve. But in your bulletin, it goes into some detail on what the courses are, and you can look on your third page, tells you about that. You've been through the enrollment process, so let's go to the next page. Class schedule, tuition, we've done that. Rescheduling and refunds. This course won't be rescheduled. We're started it. Now, we may miss I don't know what's going to happen with the weather. If the, well, let's say it this way. We follow the Guilford County schools closing. So if the Guilford County schools close, we will be closed. And it's easier for us as a school just to have that decision that simple. Otherwise, I'm waking up early trying to figure out, are we going to have class? And then we got to get in touch with everybody. And so we're just going to follow the Guilford County schools. If you're not from around here, if you live in another city, Winston or Thomasville or something like that, Burlington, if Guilford County schools are not closed, but it's really bad in the city where you're coming from, then we're not going to. Please don't get out and try to drive to get here just because we're holding class. If you need any assistance in trying to make up the topic or the lecture or trying to make up any hours that you might have missed, we'll help you the best that we can. But I don't want anybody driving if they feel like it's unsafe. And along the same lines, we don't want you coming to class if you're sick either. Because I'm teaching every day now because I've got 3, 4, or 5 classes going on all at one time. It's just happening. Everything's happening right now. And so I need to be here so I can teach. So out of respect to everybody, if you're feeling unwell, let us know and don't come to class. And if you need any help catching up, we'll be glad to see what we can do to help you. So anyways, let's go to the next page. Student conduct. Well, we're supposed to conduct ourselves in a professional manner, an adult manner, and so what do you think that means? What do you think that means to being in a real estate course? What do you think it means about conducting yourself in a professional manner? Respectful. Let me give you some examples. I know you guys are going to get excited and you'll want to chat with each other and you'll want to chat while I'm talking. Well, I'm not going to keep talking if y'all are talking. And there are times that I just stop because I lose my voice from time to time and I just don't want to compete. And so, we'll take breaks about every 50 minutes to 60 minutes where you can chat with each other, but we do have to be respectful in that regard. The other thing is cell phones. We're going to ask you to turn them off, because when a phone is even on silent, if it vibrates, it gets me off my thinking, off of my train of thought, and it interrupts everyone else. The other is, well, let me give you an example. I was teaching a weekend class last year, and weekend classes are real easy going, the course material is the same, but the weekend classes are usually smaller classes and just kind of easy going. And I'm pretty easy going. I looked in the back row and I saw this student get out a bag of sunflower seeds and open the bag and crack a sunflower seed and spit it in a cup. Now, I have a really weak stomach, number one, and that spitting in the cup just about turned it over. But the other thing was, that was distracting cracking, everybody could hear the cracking and the sucking the seed out, whatever you do to get it out, I don't know, and then spitting in a cup. I have to tell you, I was a little bit lost for words because I don't like to hurt somebody's feelings, but I had to address that because it was distracting. So this time of class, meeting 6 until 10, I know that it's an odd time, and if you want to bring food to eat, that's okay to me, with me, as long as it's not distracting. Like I was telling the morning class, I probably don't want you to bring in onions and things that will smell the classroom up because it will linger, and I'm weak on my stomach. I think I told y'all that. So anyways, but we do get it. You know, people want to stop and bring a sandwich or something. I understand that. So conduct yourself respectful. That's a good word. Let's talk about the attendance. You need to be here. I hope that you've gathered that just from the students who say you need to study. Everyone, you need to be here too. I get it, things come up. Elizabeth and I were talking, she travels. I mean, things do come up with your family life and you've got other commitments. But this is a course, if you're not here, you really don't have a chance of passing. So you can miss 2 class periods. You can miss 10%. So I'm even rounding up, to be honest with you. You can miss 8 hours, which is 2 class periods. If you see that you're going to need to miss more than that, you will be allowed to make up your hours by attending a day class if you want to. Now you're going to miss the lecture, the subject matter, but we will work with you on making up the hours if you need to do it that way. And Barry's going to have us on YouTube, so maybe at least you can go and hear the lecture, read keep up with your reading, but we do have to keep attendance. Now you signed in when you came to register. Every night we're here, we're going to ask you to sign in because we have to keep up with the attendance. And you're going to be on your honor, but I'm also going to be watching too, but you're going to be on your honor if you come in late. When you sign in, you need to put the time you come in because unfortunately I have to watch it that closely. It's a commission rule, everybody. And so we have to keep those records, and the commission could say, let me see your records, your attendance records from the last class that you taught. And, if they see that somebody was out more than what we say you can be out, I mean, they're gonna talk to me about it. So we do have to watch your attendance. If you leave early, I do make a note of it. If you come in late, we make a note of it. But let's talk about that for a minute. Coming in late and even leaving early, and I know we're sounding like we're being so strict, and I'm really not strict about things, but these are things I think we need to talk about. When you come in late, it does distract. When students come in late, what happens is you're sort of making a little noise because you can't help it. You got your books, your book bags, you're sitting down, so I'll stop and get distracted. The other students do too. So we really need to try to be here when the class starts, if at all possible. And also leaving. If you're leaving, just be aware of everybody else trying to pay attention. Any comments on that? I was watching a commercial the other day, and it was about adults going back to school. And it was at a university, and this woman was running late to get to class, and she tried to get in, the door was locked, and the professor did this. Now, I do feel like I wish I could lock the door because there are people who are chronically late, and it is disruptive. So let's try to keep that in mind, just as respect.
I was just going to ask, when you think it's too late and unacceptable? You should just stay home at this point.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a good question. What do I think is too late? Well, we're here 6 to 10. I think if you were if you had a meeting or something came up, if you could get here at 8, we would have to dock you the 2 hours, of course, but at least you'll get half of the lecture. If it's 9 o'clock, I don't think you could come and get 1 hour in, but I don't know if that would be worth your time, to be honest with you. Because we don't teach a whole hour, we teach about 50 minutes to an hour and take a 10-minute break. But the whole idea is you need to be here as much as you can for the lecture. So that's the attendance. let's talk about finishing the course. So part of successfully completing this course so that you can apply to the Real Estate Commission to take the state exam, number one would be your attendance, and number two, we have one final exam and you have to score at least 75% on it. Multiple choice, 112 questions. And so when you do that, we will, well, let's talk about that night. We'll have our exam the last night we're here, which will be Thursday, October 25th. So we'll start the exam as close to 6 o'clock as we can. It'll be a 3-hour exam. And when you finish, you'll turn in your exam and your paperwork, scratch paper, whatever you have. Megan will grade your exam the next morning. So I'm not going to stay and grade it that night. Megan will grade. It'll be a Scantron, so it'll be quick when she gets here. And she will notify you via your email address or call Mama. We might call Mama. But anyway, that's how she'll do that. And when you pass, she'll give you instructions on what to do then, which would be giving you my school code number and my instructor number so you can go online and get your application to the Real Estate Commission sent off, because they're going to look at your application, see that you finished this course, and they're going to look at your application. They're looking really at character. If they see anything they need to ask you about, but they're looking at character issues. For example, if they ask you questions like, have you been convicted of this or that, you need to be completely honest, because if they find out that you lied to them later on, they can take your license away. Guys, I've never had anybody not get a license. I've been teaching almost 20 years. So I've had, in my whole career of teaching, I've had 2 students who have called me and said, the commission has my application, but they want me to come to Raleigh to talk to them. And I got nervous for them. That's a little scary. You know, going down to talk to the commissioners. There are 9 of them in a big conference room. And so, but they both were allowed to take the exam and get their license. So it's not that the commission is denying people license, guys. It's open for everybody. But they are there to protect the public. And they want to make sure that we know what we're doing and that we have good character. And whatever that good character is, I don't have the decision-making capability. I've had students who come to me and said, I did this when I was young. Do you think they'll give me a license? And I don't know. And I wouldn't want to mislead you. They look at everybody on a case-by-case. Now,
how long is the background check?
It's good for 180 days. Criminal background check. Yeah, so we'll talk about that. I'll show the other students in class. When you send in your application, you do have to have a criminal background check that will go in with it. And I'll show you in your textbook, the commission only considers one resource. So you'll have to get it from the resource that the commission wants you to get it from. And so it'll show everything too. Now, I did have a young man who came to see me on break during a class last year. And he said, Ms. Secor, I don't know whether I should finish this class. And I said, well, tell me what's up. Why do you say that? And he said, because I have a conviction of felony assault. And he said, what do you think? And I said, I don't know. I said, I think you need to call the commission directly and ask them, what do they think about you finishing this course, and will they let you take the state exam? Because it's up to them, not to me. And so he called me back and he said that he spoke to someone at the Real Estate Commission, and they said, probably not a good idea for you to stay in the course. Now, that's a different thing, isn't it? I mean, being convicted, and that sounds a little bit serious, but it doesn't mean that well, they just told him that. You know, they just said, you know, it might not be something for you, you know, to do. So I gave him the mama talk, you know, you need to get your life together. As a young boy, 25. And I said, you know, get over this, get it together. Who knows what you can do later on. But that's the only time that I've had a student tell me that the commission said, here's what you know, probably this isn't something for you. All right, let's talk about something else here. We're talking about the completing the course, end of course exam. By the way, let me let you know this. When we have our final exam, it's October 25th, we give everybody a second chance. So if you don't pass the exam, we will have a retake opportunity the next Thursday night. So everybody gets a chance to take another test. It won't be the same one. Now, here's some words of advice. Your best chance to pass is the first chance, to be real honest with you. You really need to have that mindset that I'm going to study hard to pass it the first time. I know that folks tend to think, oh, I got another opportunity, I'm not going to sweat it too much. Well, the odds of passing the second one are really slim. The people who score really close to 75, they've got the best chance of passing the second test. Those who score lower than that, you know, if we're being honest, if they struggle the first time, they're probably going to struggle the second time. And students who come back and take the course a second time usually tell me they're glad they did because they're getting things better. And you want to really know it well, so when you take the state exam, you can kind of breeze through it, hopefully. All right. Let's see what else I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, if you're not prepared for the first one, you will not be for the second.
Yeah. It's odd how that is. You know, you would think that you got a whole nother week, you can study,
Well, then
but
it's fair enough, but there's not enough time in them 7 days to prepare for that second.
yeah, it's tough. All righty. Does anybody have any questions about the school bulletin? Any questions about attendance? Any questions about the final exam? Any question that you can think of? Well, then let's do this. I promised you we'd take a break so you don't get so tired just sitting there. Let's take our first break. We do have coffee, and I brought some brownies in. So take a 10-minute break, and then we'll regroup. Okay.
No, it's in the weather. This is like Thursday, hurricane coming.
Yeah, what do we do?
Don't let the kids out of school early. When we come, we have class.
Maybe not. And what we'll do, if that's the case, we'll send you an email or call you.
Kids don't let them out early.
Yeah, because if we're letting them out early, it's kind of like a snow day would be, and it means bad weather's coming tonight, and not probably a class.
But something they don't have school, you know?
I heard that, what is it, what county? What did Barry say? Started with a B, that they've already,
Like Brunswick,
maybe it was Brunswick.
they're closer to the coast.
Yeah, that is close to the coast. Gosh, I didn't know it was coming I didn't know we were gonna get that much effect from it.
I had my uncles and stuff text me from home in Tennessee, asking me if I'm prepared for Florence. I'm like,
What's
Florence? I'm like,
fun?
what is Florence?
I gotta go to the store, I leave tonight, I can't wait till tomorrow, I didn't mean to rain.
Well, I'm not, but, I bet you
Just
this.
like now, this is not definite, this is not in stone, every time they show it, it's coming through.
Yeah.
Maybe not yet.
What's the day, Monday?
But
Yeah,
they
well, where's
said
maybe.
by
that?
tomorrow, they say it's coming back.
And I think it's
Tonight,
probably,
it'll be something else.
you know, anybody that was around when Hazel came through, and it's gonna be stronger than Hazel.
It's a week like
Yes,
that.
I heard.
Yes.
After if I'm munchies, I'm gonna be.
That's right. That's, how you feeling?
Yes, I feel so much.
Oh, good.
One of my customers.
But Hazel stayed.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't coming through in a matter of hours going on, Hazel stayed, but then when we had her friend,
Y'all must have loved that.
yeah, we got back from, I mean, see, 95. It was a friend came on it, sweet, and it was just a matter of a few hours.
Oh, really?
Well, here was
Because
a
it must be
Tennessee
the
worse.
storm stirring it
That's
up.
what they're saying.
Wow.
Maybe the worst one in history.
Which hand? Yes, you may. That would be the best way. There's your bulletin. You got your contract, did you?
I did.
And, oh, you didn't? You didn't sign one? When did you come in this morning?
I came in when I passed by, and then, I never did get that.
Okay. Did you check in with Megan this
Yeah,
morning?
I did. I
Okay.
signed it.
Okay. Write your name and sign it. And did you give her your driver's license? So she, okay, so you got that, and I gave you,
And I signed it this morning.
and you signed in, and you got a reading schedule, right? Okay, all right. And you got did I give you the
Yes,
homework?
I did.
Okay, all right, you're good to go then. I just need the yellow copy of that.
Is it a weekend course right now, or is that?
Yeah, we're halfway through.
Okay, okay, you're already done, okay.
Yeah. What are we doing this weekend? Appraising? This
I just
weekend?
wondering, Thursday's maybe gonna be a rough night for me, so I was trying to see where I could try to fall in, but.
Well, now, we've got 3 more weekends. I mean, if you needed to make up hours, you could come. And it wouldn't hurt to hear that.
Yeah, I
It is
heard
a-
once.
Yeah, you have. So we're here 9 to 1 and then 2 to 4.
Okay.
So, if you need to come, you can certainly do that. Okay.
Just a quick question, so do you still make their own grading houses? I know like the council, they do like 80%.
We have a lot to do.
Okay. I know they wouldn't even let you take the test unless you make 70, then you can take it. So-
Yeah. You know what, I used to, when I opened the school, I had a little bit stricter policy too, but I changed it over the years.
Oh,
Because I just think, well, over the years, the real estate commission lowered the score you have to make at the state level. Because it used to be you had to score at least 75. And so now it's a 71 and a 72.5, so they lowered what you need to make. So I thought, gosh, if they lowered there, I'm gonna lower mine. Because ours was 80 for a lot of years.
Oh,
And so
okay.
now it's 75. And
Well, he's supposed to be at my
I
house.
think everybody has a right to take the test here because you guys are very good in here. And
Yeah.
that's my thinking on that.
Yeah.
And you could have had a bad day.
Right.
So that's the way we look at it.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Who was your instructor?
His name was, what was his name? Dan?
Dan Moore?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I didn't know who they had teaching over there now.
Yeah.
And is it a Coldwell Banker school now?
Mm-hmm. It's, well, it's right in the real estate agency.
Is it called Elliott still?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. But, yeah, I mean, he's a great teacher. I was like, well, let me just try this, even at 80, like, I mean, 30% of people pass. I'm like, but
Yeah.
he's a great teacher, though.
Yeah.
Learned a lot.
Sometimes just a change of scenery.
Yeah.
Helps in another way to hear. We even say that to our students. I mean, we take a seat.
Before it's all started.
Yeah, that's true. I think, just like you said, appendix A in the math is what because I was so close, but.
Well, I'm putting together a math course that will,
It's only an hour
to
away.
see if it will help. So I'll let you know about that.
Okay.
Okay, good. I'm glad to have you here. All right, let's see. Drinkers do we have? Y'all, who's drinking coffee? Y'all gonna drink coffee all night? Well, let me know, because I'll make the other pot if you are. I'm not gonna make it if we're not gonna drink it though. Okay. Let's do this. Alrighty, I also handed out to you the reading schedule. Did everybody get that? The class meetings and the reading schedule? Here's the idea about this, everybody. The ideal way to approach the course is to read the unit before the lecture. If at all possible, for example, when most of you signed up, now we did have some late sign-ups, but when most of you signed up, Megan emailed you and said, read ahead, try to at least read ahead to Unit 4, because we're going to discuss 1, 2, 3, and 4 this week. So the idea is to read ahead of lecture so that you get something out of the lecture and take your notes and, and let me explain things to you. So that's what giving you the heads up on this. So tonight we are going to get to Unit 1, and I may even get into Unit 2 a little bit, because Unit 2 is a long discussion unit. And so Wednesday night we'll spend our time discussing Unit 2. It's a little more involved. And then on the third night we'll get into Units 3 and 4. So that's the game plan. And then you can see the rest of the schedule. We will not have class October the 10th. I have a real estate instructor workshop that I have to go to. So we're not going to have class then, but we've got all the class days, all the hours. I took that into consideration. Debbie asked me a question, with this storm coming. She asked me, well, schools, Guilford County schools are not closed yet that we know of. But she said, what if you hear on the news that they sent the kids home early, like early Wednesday afternoon? Well, if they sent the kids home early, it's probably because maybe it's looking bad. It reminds me of a snow day when school lets out early. We probably won't have night class then if they send the kids home early, but we'll be able to give you notification on that, where we can call you or email you is going to be the best way. But also I'll leave a voicemail on the phone. And so if you're not sure, just call the school and I'll have a voicemail message. But that makes sense, doesn't it? If they send kids home early, we probably don't need to be getting out that night, is my impression. So unless you hear otherwise, but we'll try to just kind of play that by ear. If you get confused, just call us and we'll let you know what's up. Because it's something we're not used to this time of year with school, classes being canceled and that sort of thing. Now, I heard Kevin say something. He mentioned, look at your class meeting 18. Class meeting 18 is the Appendix A, and it's license law. Well, now here's what I want for you to write down. When we get to that lecture, it will be a review. I promise you we will have talked about most of everything we talked about that night. We will have already seen and discussed. So I'm not going to introduce a whole new bunch of information 2 nights before your final. Does everybody follow me? So it should be a review instead of new information. because licensed law comes up throughout your whole textbook. It's not just concentrated in one area of your textbook.
I get one of those papers.
You didn't get a reading schedule? I'm sorry. You didn't either? All right, let me get a couple of them. Yeah, you need to know where we're gonna be. Here you go, and I'll send you those two.
Okay,
Thank you, yeah. All right, let's do this before we do anything else. Let's look at our packet. Guys, I want to talk to you about the packet that you have. On the right-hand side of your packet, let's go through this for a few minutes. You have your second page in is, it says level 1, 2, 3. Does everybody see that? Your second page in. And it's a competency level cheat sheet or information sheet. Does everybody have theirs? Right-hand side of your packet.
I didn't get that old package.
Were you here this morning?
I left early, but I didn't get the
Now,
package.
did you sign in with Megan? Because she should have given you all that.
You didn't.
Well, I'm gonna have to find one. I'll have to go get you one on break. Remind me your name. I'm gonna just check with her.
Sophia.
Sophia. Yeah, you were here. You should
All
have
she did
had.
was give me the book and that was it.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Tell me to go to class.
She did tell you to get in here? I'll get you one in a few minutes. I'll go get it in a minute.
Here's an extra one she had put down.
Okay, thank you. Pass it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. All right, so let's look at this a minute. This is real important, everybody. As I go through the lecture, there are going to be certain topics that I won't spend as much time on. And there'll be certain topics that I'll spend a lot of time on. So look at your level 1. Level 1 competency. For you as a student, it says you need a basic recall knowledge. Now, I'm not going to say memorize because I think you need to understand instead of memorizing. But anyway, you need to have recall of what the word means. It's more terminology than anything else. Does that make sense? All right. I will instruct accordingly. Here's what that means. Unit 1 tonight is a level 1 unit. So it means I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. We'll talk about it maybe 20, 30 minutes, and then we're going to move on. So it's not that you're getting gypped on some instruction, it's that just that we have other topics that require more time. So level 1, I won't spend as much time on, and so what it tells me for you as a student, don't overthink level 1 topics. You know, take it basically for what it is. Does that make sense? Level 2, more comprehension. So if you'll look at level 2, you need to possess a moderate comprehensive level of knowledge and understanding. You need to understand and explain, be able to discuss a topic. By the way, the bulk of your exam is level 2. 60% of your exam questions are level 2 kinds of questions, so they're a little bit more involved questions. Level 1, 30% of your exam is level 1. So even if you've got a level 2 kind of a question, there's probably going to be a term in it that was a level 1 term in your question. So you got to know the terminology, bottom line, and then more about certain topics. Level 3 is the analyzing part of the exam. We do get into math in this course, and so every math question that you might have on your exam is a level 3. And the reason is it doesn't mean that it's a difficult question necessarily. It just means that you need to read it and know how to solve the problem. That's what it's about, understanding and to be able to figure it out like a word problem. There is lecture in here that's level 3. So look at your reading schedule. Let me give you a heads up on what is level 3. Level 3 lecture is going to be your 5th class, your 6th class, 7, 8, and 9. So when we get into our discussion of unit 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, Those are the meat, those units are the meat of the class. Those units are contract law and real estate license, what real estate licensees do, what we're expected to know how to do when we list a house for sale, when we work with a buyer. So it's called agency, but it's really a major topic. So even though technically some of it might not be at the level 3 level, I'm going to tell you to study it as if it is level 3, because the questions are more involved on that topic. What do you think, Terrell? That's good advice, isn't it? Yeah, agency and contract law, you really need to treat as if it's level 3. And 10% of your exam is level 3, but I'm going to tell you it feels like more than that. When you see the exam questions, it's going to feel like more. All righty, back to your packet, right-hand side. I've got you some study tips and some math learning objectives, some math little, what do they call them, indicators, units of measure. And then let's look at the last 2 papers, if you don't mind. You find yours? Okay. Last 2 pages. The North Carolina Real Estate Licensing at a Glance. Does everybody see that? Real estate licensing at a glance. All right, so let's look at these steps here, because I'm sure you want to know about getting your license. Number 1, you successfully complete this course. Step 2, you're going to apply, you're going to fill in an application to send to the Real Estate Commission. You cannot do that until you complete this course and with the grade and the attendance. Step 3, the Real Estate Commission will process your application and look over it to see if they have any questions they would like for you to answer. If not, it might take them 2 or 3 days, and if they don't have any questions, they'll email you and say that you are allowed to schedule your state exam. So you will schedule the licensing exam at your convenience, really. There are a couple of testing centers around. Most of our students go to Winston-Salem because it's closer. There's Charlotte, there's Raleigh, there's Statesville, lots of different places you can go. We recommend highly that you do it as quickly as possible. We've kept up with our statistics, and we know that students who pass this course and take the state exam quickly, like within a week, the odds of your passing are high. If you wait, and I hear it all, everybody, here's what I hear. I'm tired of studying. I don't want to study anymore. Or I need a vacation. I'm going to take the test later. And I don't say this to my students because I don't want to hurt their feelings, but here's what I want to say. You're going to fail the exam. Because if you don't take it right away, it's going to be hard to pass it. Just imagine all this information that we're going to be talking about it 3 times a week for about 6 weeks. It's going to be easy to forget it. Or let's say hard to retain all those detailed kind of things. So we really are going to push you. I'll tell you more than one time that we need you to take the state exam as quickly as the Real Estate Commission gets back with you. They'll say you can schedule your exam, and we're going to say do it, because we want you to pass. There are a couple of reasons. One is selfish. The selfish reason is that's how I get graded. I get graded on how my students do at the state exam. And here's the way they grade us. If you pass it the first time, it's a plus for me. If you fail it the first time, it's a minus for me. Now, you can take that state exam as many times as you want to. It's the first time that matters to the real estate schools, because that's how the commission oversees us. And so if I have a lot of students failing, I'm going to get a letter from the commission asking me what's going on. And tell me how you're teaching. What's going on here? Now, it bothers me a little because I can't make you go take your test. I can't make you study, but that's how they oversee the real estate schools and instructors. So that's selfish on my part. But I do have another reason for you. Every time you take the state exam, it's $164. And so every time, if you fail the exam, it's $164 to take it again. Let me explain that. When you apply to the real estate commission, the application fee is $100. The exam is $64. And the exam, they called it the licensing exam. You'll hear me say the state exam. It's the exam after this one. The exam now is a two-part exam. You'll schedule the exam time either in the morning or the afternoon. It'll be on a computer. You'll take the exam, whatever time frame you want to take it. The first part of the exam you'll be given is called national. The national part has 100 test questions, and they're all multiple choice. You get 2.5 hours to take that exam. It's timed. When you complete it, you'll get a little stretch break, maybe 5 minutes, and then you'll have to take the state part, the second part. The state part is what Kevin was alluding to. That's the tougher part. It's an hour and a half you're given, and there are 40 test questions. Now, part of the reason students don't do well on that part, number one, there are only 40 questions. So that means you can't miss as many. 2.5 points each. You can't miss as many. The other thing that I've noticed, and students have said to me, is that's the hardest part of the overall exam, and you've already been there 2.5 hours. You're a little bit worn out. But this is the way the commission's going to give it to you, though. It'll be the national part, 2.5 hours, state part, an hour and a half. So when we talk about license law and some of the things you need to know about North Carolina, that's where you really need to hone in on. Let me give you a statistic about that. North Carolina and other states probably are about the same. We don't offer reciprocity to other states, other licensees in other states who want to get a license here. Used to be that if you had a license in South Carolina and you wanted to get a real estate license in North Carolina, because there are parts that kind of go together, you know, down the coast maybe. Used to be that if you had a license in South Carolina, you would just apply to the real estate commission and you would get a license. It was that simple. That was reciprocated both ways. Now it's not that way. If you have a license in South Carolina and you want a North Carolina real estate license, you go through the application process, which is $100 application fee, criminal background check, and you have to take that state part of the exam. The odds, here are the odds on people passing that. People who even have a license somewhere else, 33%. Now that's not good, is it? It's a little bit scary. I would think that somebody had a license could think real estate, you know, they could think through it, and I thought the odds would be better, but it just tells you that real estate law in North Carolina is tough. We're one of the toughest states as far as testing goes, and so the folks that have a license somewhere else, it's not easy peasy that they're going to get their license here. So that tells me we really need to make sure we study that part to get you ready for the state exam. So we'll make sure that we were doing the best that we can here. But anyways, after you, where are we? After you schedule your exam, if you pass it, the testing center will notify the real estate commission. The real estate commission will one more time look over your application, just making sure they feel like all the ducks are in a row. If they see that everything is okay, they will issue you a license. That license is called a broker license. Guys, North Carolina is an all-broker state. There are some states that have salesperson license and broker license. North Carolina used to. But now we only have one license. It's called a broker license. So you will be issued a broker license. Now, some of the things I want to tell you now, you might see on the test question, on the exam, but I'll review, we'll say this more than one time. When you get your license, everyone, it will be a certificate, you know, a certificate that you can frame. It'll have your name, your legal name. It'll say North Carolina Broker License. It will have the date of your license, which, by the way, is the only place your license date is on this certificate. And And so you'll have your license. The commission will also send you a note saying a couple of things. You need to go to the commission website and download to your smartphone your business card. So not your business card, your pocket card. They call it a pocket card, which is information about your license. It's kind of like your real estate agent ID. It's got your name on it, your license number on it, and a few more things. And so they've made that digital now, and you're supposed to have that with you at all times while you're in the real estate business. Does everybody understand that? Here's what that means. I was telling the morning class this. What if I'm from the Real Estate Commission? The Real Estate Commission has a right to randomly audit a class, randomly audit a real estate company. So what if somebody from the commission comes to your real estate company and Debbie walks by the lobby and I'm from the Real Estate Commission waiting to speak to somebody? I may say, do you work here, ma'am? And Debbie says, yes, I do. May I see your pocket card, please? And if she's fumbling around and she says, I left it at home, that's not good. You're supposed to have it with you. Used to be, we would get a copy that looks like your Social Security card, and we put it in our wallet. You can even now download it on paper form and put it in your wallet. That's what I do because I'm not in the digital world yet. So mine's in my wallet because I've carried my license since 1977 in my wallet. So they would want to see your ID. And then the person from the commission could say, well, Debbie, how many listings do you have? Do you have any listings? Listings meaning how many sellers want you to sell their home. And Debbie says, yes, I got some listings. I got 2 new listings. I just started and I got 2 new listings. And I might say, may I see those files, please? Because there's some things that need to be in there. And so those are things that are important that we're going to learn about. What kind of paperwork are you supposed to have when you represent a seller? What kind of paperwork are you supposed to have when you represent a buyer? So there are things like that that we need to make sure we're aware of. So you get your license, and so the commission, the letter's going to say you need to download your pocket card. And the other thing they're going to tell you is that you need to contact the North Carolina Department of Revenue. If you decide to go into real estate sales, you'll have to get a privilege license. It's the privilege of doing business in North Carolina. Guys, that's $50 a year, and it's been $50 a year ever since I've had my license in 1977. It's been $50 a year. So it's just one of those things that you have to do. When you get your license, it will be what we call inactive. An inactive real estate license means you have a license, but you cannot use it. Now these are terms that the commission expects us to know. What Kevin was saying, this is license stuff that we need to know. Your license will be inactive. It reminds me of getting a new credit card. When I get a new credit card or a renewal credit card, there's a little strip on the card that says, to activate this card and use it, call this number. So as a new licensee, to get your license active so it's not inactive, because you want to use your license, your broker in charge will activate. And so here's what that means. When you choose the company that you want to affiliate with, there will be someone there, a figurehead, that we call a broker in charge. That broker in charge is like a sales manager, if you will. They have a whole lot more, they have a lot of responsibility, but one of the responsibilities is to supervise new licensees. You cannot use your license and work in the real estate business without a broker in charge. So it will be that person at that company that will send in notification to the Real Estate Commission that they are supervising you and they're asking that your license become activated. It's instant. They email to the commission, instant confirmation. You can go out and start contacting buyers and sellers immediately, but it takes the broker in charge to do that for you. So when you have an active license, you can work in the business. So it's not active when you first get it. Does everybody understand that? It's not active when you first get it. All right, so you get that license. Let's talk about a few more things. On your pocket card's gonna be a little card like this. It'll have your name, it'll have your license number, it'll have the initials PB, and then it'll have the expiration date. So let me explain some of that to you. PB means the P stands for provisional. When you get your broker license, you will be on provisional status. Provisional status means you're temporarily a broker until you come back and take more real estate courses. You can act like a broker and do everything. Your license is a broker license, but you've got more education to get is what that means. So your status, provisional means status. You're temporarily, you got your broker's license, but here's where you stand. It's your status. So here's what that means to you as a new licensee. I mentioned the post classes. So in order to remove your provisional status, you take post-education. Your post-education is 3 30-hour courses you must take and pass. Each one of those courses has an in-class exam that we give, and you have to pass it. Now, I hope this will be comforting to you. I've never had anybody fail, because it's a hands-on class. It's students enjoy it because you don't feel it's not as fast-paced. We've got 30 hours to talk about 2 of the units that we're going to spend 8 hours on. So 30 hours to talk about listing agreements and working with sellers and buyers. Then another class is 30 hours talking about contracts, and every form will go over line by line. So the courses are hands-on, like real-life real estate. We have students that have been in the business a year or 2 who take the course. We have people that are brand new who are taking the course. So it's really a good interactive discussion, kind of group activity kind of course. Now here are the rules on that. When you get your license, let's put a date up here. The course finishes October 25th. Let's say you get your license November 7th, 2018. If you get your license November 7th of 2018, here's the rule on these 3 courses. The commission says you have 3 years to get all 3 of them. But there's a little caveat to that. As long as you take 1 a year. So you've got 3 years to get all 3 of your 30-hour post-broker courses, as long as you take at least 1 a year. Now, 1 a year is based on your license date. So Debbie might get her license November the 7th. Hunter might get his license November the 5th. So your year is going to be individual. So here's what that means. You'll need at least 1 by November 7th of 2019, at least 1 of them. You'll need at least 2 by 2020, and you'll need your 3rd one by 2021. If you miss one of those, your license goes inactive. An inactive license means you cannot use it. So the education is important. Do you have any questions about that? You must get it.
Are all the post-licensing courses in class also?
Yes. The question Avery is asking, are the post-license courses instructor-led in class? And yes, they are. The pre-license and the post-license courses have to be instructor-led, not online, but in class. When we talk about continuing ed, there are some courses that you can take online, but most of the courses right now that the commission expects to be taken are in-person, in classroom, instructor-led. Now, here's the thing. We teach these 3 30-hour courses. We teach 1 a month. I've already got my next year's schedule, so there's 1 course a month. So, and honestly, this is the truth, a lot of my students say, I want to get it over with. I don't want that hanging over me. I don't want to slip up and miss one, and then my license goes inactive and I can't use it. Then I got to go find the course that I need to take before they'll even activate my license again. So most of our students say, I want to just knock it out. Now, they do cost something. Each one of our post courses costs $279, and there's another textbook you would have to buy, but it would cover all 3 of the courses. It's called the Broker Manual, and it's $55. Now, I am putting a discount program together for my students because I know that it's money out of your pocket and you haven't made any money yet. So here's an incentive, getting back to your taking your exam as soon as you can. If you take your exam right away, and this is, from this class, and you pass it the first time, we will give you half price off your first post class. Guys, that's $140. That almost pays you for your test. So it means that much to me that you go and pass it. And so I would like to offer that incentive, and then hopefully you'll go get that out of the way. And so, and come back and take your post-education from us. We would love to be your real estate education resource, with your continuing ed, your post-education. We want you to come back for all of that. So you've got to get those post-education courses. Once you get all 3, this provisional is automatically eliminated. So once you get all 3 of the courses, now you are full broker. The commission calls it non-provisional. You're not on provisional anymore. Now here's a question that came up today. She didn't ask it exactly this way, but I knew what she was trying to say. Well, can I go out on my own and open my own company once I get rid of the provisional? And the answer is maybe not. Because if you want to be on your own, if you want to open your own real estate company or even act as a sole proprietor, the commission says you got to either work for a BIC or become a BIC, a broker in charge. You can only become a broker in charge of yourself if you have experience. And so the experience in real estate is a requirement if you want to be on your own, and it's 2 years full-time experience within the previous 5 years. Or if you're working part-time, it's 4 years part-time experience in the real estate business before you can open your own company. Before 2006, you could come take a real estate course and then just go open a real estate company. And guys, I can remember teaching students that did that, and here's what I was thinking, are y'all crazy? You're just learning about real estate. Now you're going to open a real estate company? Guys, it's majorly important and serious. So the commission says you need to know what you're doing if you want to open a real estate business. Any questions on that? So the post-education, that is test material that you have to know when you need. So let me give you an example of a question that, that we were talking about today, that 2 answers look real close, but one's better. When does a new licensee need their 3 30-hour post-license courses? Answer, I'm giving you just the 2 that are close. Within 3 years. Now that's true, isn't it? Within 3 years. Here's the answer though. Within 3 years, as long as they take at least 1 a year. Isn't that a better answer? So I know it feels a little tricky. One's right, but it's not the rightest one. The more thorough answer is the one that's going to be the answer. So that makes sense, doesn't it? All righty, let me tell you a couple more things about your license before we move on. So I mentioned to you, I've got June 30th here. All broker license expire June 30th of every year. So what that means is, by June 30th, midnight of June 30th, we're all paying our renewal fee. And so your renewal fee by June 30th is $45. And it's been fairly low for all the years that I've had my license, $45. What that means is if you don't pay your renewal fee, your license expires. Everyone, an expired license is no license. You don't have a license anymore. So you don't want your license to expire when you work so hard to get it. Now, the only way the commission will take payment on that is online. They're not gonna take, if you wanted to call and say, here's my credit card, they're not gonna do that anymore. And the reason is privacy. You know, it's too risky for them to have your credit card number. They're not gonna do that anymore. So we'd go online, pay online, get an instant confirmation, which is good. The other thing that I wanna mention to you is continuing ed. Continuing education. If you are a licensee and you are waiting to take your 3 courses, one a year, because after all, it does cost some money, and you might say, I'm gonna wait once a year. There'll be 2 of those years probably that you'll be taking 8 hours of continuing education along with it. So your continuing education and your post-education are not interchangeable, and they're not the same thing. Continuing ed is 8 hours every year. There are 2 4-hour courses. One of the 4-hour courses is called a general update. That course is written by the Real Estate Commission, and it's rewritten every year, and it's a course about things the commission thinks that need to be brought to our attention. And so that's instructor-led, this general update must be. So that's 4 of the hours. The other 4 is an elective. An elective course of your choice, as long as it's been commission approved for a real estate elective continuing ed course. Now, of course, we teach all of those here. We do have a company we're affiliated with that has online elective courses, so you could go to our website and link to it and get that done. Most of my students, and we teach our continuing ed mostly in the spring. We're April, May, and June, we're teaching CE along with other things, and we run probably 600 students through here in about 6 to 8 weeks, because everybody's got a license, has to get their continuing ed. And they have to get it before June 10th. So that's another date you need to remember. Continuing ed is due every year before June 10th if you have a license that's active that you want to use. If you have a license and you don't intend on using it, guys, you don't have to take any other education. But sure as the world that you don't take your education, you're going to get a job opportunity that is so great, and you're going to say to the commission, I want my license active so I can take this job. And they're going to say, slow down. You haven't been taking your education. Now you got to catch up. And I can tell you, I've heard that too many times from students. Finding the course when you need that course is going to be hard to do. And that could be a deal breaker on this opportunity that might be handed to you. So we always encourage our students, take all your education, whether you intend on using your license or not. Just keep it up, so you just never know what's going to happen, and you might want to use your license, and then you've had all your education. Let me give you a wonderful test question.
So can I ask a quick question? We get our provisional license, let's say November 7th date you have up here, so we have to get that 8 hours in by next June 10th?
No,
No.
that's what I'm going to show you right now.
Okay.
Who's asking? Yeah. So you get your license November 7th, 2018. Every year our license expires, let's just put this over here, June, and that's going to be 19, isn't it? So you get your license November 7th of 2018. Your license will expire June 30th of 2019 unless you pay your $45. Everybody good on that? Mm-hmm. Guys, we have classes like this that end in May. And so we have a class that might end May 15th or May 20th, and guess when their license expires? June 30th. Because the commission isn't going to prorate or stagger for 100,000 licensees. Well, your date's this, your date's that, every license expires June 30th. And I've had students say, well, Miss Secor, shouldn't I wait until July to take my state exam so I don't have to pay $45? You'll fail the state exam. No, don't wait. Pay the $45, because if you don't, it's going to cost you $164 to take the exam twice. So I get the dilemma, but you need to get your exam done quickly. The question on the floor is, so when will I need my first CE? And I guarantee you this is a test question. A new licensee needs their first 8 hours of CE before their second renewal, and CE cuts off June 10th. So CE cuts off June 10th. So you get your license November of this year. Your first renewal is June 30th next year, isn't it? You don't need CE before then. Golly, you were just here, right? So you don't need CE before then. You'll need it before June 10th of 2020 because it's your second renewal year. All right, let me give you an idea of a question. When does a new licensee need their first CE? Before their second year in the real estate business? That's not the answer probably. It's before your second renewal. All right, so let me give an example. What if you got your license May 15th of 2018? Your license renewal is June 30th of that year, isn't it? Because that's when it expires. So June 30th, that's your first license year, first renewal. You'll need your CE by June 10th of 2019. So that's not 2 whole years, is it? But it's before your second renewal. Does that make sense? And June 10th is the cutoff day. We don't teach continuing ed the rest of June. It's a blackout period for CE because the Real Estate Commission is updating everybody's records. So we don't teach it. If you don't get your CE by June 10th, midnight of that day, you're out of luck until we can start teaching it again, which is July 1. So the fiscal year for the commission is July 1 to June 30th. So we can't teach continuing ed until July 1. I don't teach many courses then because we don't get the demand for it. Most of our students want to come in the spring. Most real estate agents wait until the last minute. That's the whole bottom line. And most of them are rushing in here in the spring to get it done before June 10th. Comments on this? So you do have some more education to take when you get your license, but guys, it's a good thing. Real estate changes, and every day is going to be different. The more educated you are, the way better. I tell a lot of my students, when you can be young and you can be recently licensed, and if you take your education and get it done quickly, you can be as smart and as successful as somebody that's been doing this business for a lot of years. Corny, knowledge is power, isn't it? And if you know how to do this, you can, it doesn't matter how long you've had your license, you can be successful. Any comments on that? All righty, let's look at one last thing, we'll take our next break. What was the last page? The pre-license steps. Okay, so after you take your course, this is what I was telling you that Megan will grade it. After you take your course, Megan will notify you, and guys, it says by phone or text or email. We email because it's quicker. Now, some people might not like that. If you don't have an email, we'll figure it out. But we like to email you because we're going to have 50 students or more to notify because we have a day and a night class. So when we notify you that you passed, you can finish up your application and send it to the commission instantly, and they'll mull it over, look it over for a day or two, and send you an email and say you can schedule your exam. So that's how the process works. Now, when you take your final here, we grade it because we want to know how everybody's doing, and I like to know what subject matter the students are struggling with. So we will have a readout sheet that when you take your exam here, if you pass it or fail it, I'll tell you what areas that you missed, because it's important. Even if you pass here, it's good to know what areas you need to bone up on for your state exam. If you fail the course of the test the first time, it's good to know what areas you struggled with so you can get ready for the second test. So we'll do that for you. We look at each test individually. I just think that's a service that's good to help the student to get ready for the state exam or your second test. Any comments or questions?